Dr. Alexandra Morrison wiped the sweat from her brow as the setting sun cast long shadows across the ancient stones of the Great Pyramid. Her colleagues had long since departed for their air-conditioned hotels, but she remained, drawn by the faint, rhythmic pulses her quantum scanner had detected just hours earlier. The reading made no sense. Energy signatures don't just emerge from solid limestone after 4,000 years of silence. The device in her hands hummed softly, its holographic display showing patterns that defied everything she knew about ancient architecture. 20 years of archaeological work in Egypt had taught her that the pyramids still held secrets, but this was different. The energy signature wasn't random. It followed a precise mathematical sequence that reminded her of modern computer code. "You're not going to believe this," she spoke into her satellite phone, her voice tight with excitement. "James, the pattern. It's responding to our presence. The more people we brought near the North Face today, the stronger it became." Her research partner's voice crackled through the speaker. "That's impossible, Alex. We've had thousands of tourists walk that same path every day for decades." "Yeah, but not with a Mark 7 quantum scanner," she countered, following the strengthening signal. "This device sees things our previous equipment couldn't even detect. And there's something else." She hesitated, knowing how it would sound. The signal's getting stronger as night falls. The scanner's readings led her to a section of wall that looked, to the naked eye, identical to the rest of the pyramid's weather-worn surface. But the holographic overlay told a different story. Beneath the limestone lay a complex network of what appeared to be circuitry, but unlike any technology she'd ever encountered. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, the wall before her changed. Microscopic particles in the stone began to shift, realigning themselves into patterns that made her archaeological training scream in protest. The ancient hieroglyphs she'd studied her entire career were transforming, revealing their true nature as something far more complex. "James," she whispered, "get the team back here. Now." The wall had become a door, and the door was opening. Inside, the chamber defied everything known about ancient Egyptian architecture. The walls were covered in hieroglyphs that seemed to ripple like water, each symbol precisely carved yet somehow fluid. But it was the central pedestal that drew her attention, a structure of unknown material that rose from the floor like a growing crystal, its surface adorned with what appeared to be both ancient Egyptian symbols and mathematical equations. Morrison's hand trembled as she raised the scanner. The energy signature was off the charts now, but more importantly, it was synchronized with something else, a signal coming from her own body, from her DNA. The pedestal responded to her presence, its surface beginning to glow with a soft, blue light. Symbols began to flow across its surface, but these weren't just static hieroglyphs. They were changing, adapting, as if the ancient device was learning modern English in real time. A voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect Oxford English, yet carrying the weight of millennia. Genetic profile confirmed. Human evolution has reached stage 1 parameters. Initialization of the pyramid protocol may now begin. Morrison stood frozen, her mind racing to process what she was witnessing. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery. This was proof that everything humanity thought they knew about their origins, their history, their very evolution, was about to change forever. The voice continued, each word sending chills down her spine. "Welcome, child of Earth. The time has come to learn of your true heritage. Your species was not born of random chance. You were created with purpose, designed to inherit the stars themselves." In the distance, she could hear her team approaching, their excited voices echoing through the ancient corridors. But at that moment, standing in a chamber that shouldn't exist, facing technology that shouldn't be possible, Dr. Alexandra Morrison already knew. The human race was about to wake up from a 10,000-year sleep. 3 days after the discovery, the Great Pyramid's hidden chamber had become the center of the scientific world. Dr. Alexandra Morrison watched as holographic displays flickered across the ancient walls, each one showing different teams' attempts to decode the flowing symbols that seemed to dance in the air before them. "It's not just a language," she explained to the international panel of experts gathered in the chamber. "These symbols are alive. They're responding to our presence, our thoughts, even our emotional states." She gestured to a particular sequence that pulsed with a soft blue light. "Watch what happens when I approach it." The symbols shifted, rearranging themselves like schools of fish responding to a current. But it wasn't random. Each new pattern corresponded to complex mathematical equations that the computers were still struggling to process. Dr. James Walker, her research partner, rushed into the chamber, his tablet nearly slipping from his trembling hands. "Alex, the DNA results just came back from the lab." His voice cracked with excitement. "You need to see this now." The holographic display switched to show a double helix structure that made the assembled scientists gasp. Within the human genome, hidden in what they had previously dismissed as junk DNA, was a pattern, the same pattern that decorated the chamber's walls. "It's not just similar," James explained, his words tumbling out. "It's an exact match. These sequences, they're like keys, encoded into our very biology. We were quite literally born to find this place, to understand these symbols." Morrison approached the central pedestal, where the AI interface had first spoken to her. The surface rippled at her touch, and the voice returned, this time speaking to the entire assembly. "Your species carries within it the seeds of understanding. The builders ensured your evolution would lead you here when you were ready." One of the gathered scientists, a quantum physicist from MIT, stepped forward. "Ready for what?" The symbols on the walls began to move faster, coalescing into three-dimensional forms that hung in the air. They showed star systems, ancient technologies, and things that defied classification. Objects that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "Your DNA is not simply a biological blueprint," the voice explained. "It is a key to technologies your current science cannot yet comprehend. The patterns you see are instructions, written in the language of creation itself." Morrison's hand moved over the pedestal's surface, and something extraordinary happened. The symbols responded not just to her touch, but to her thoughts. Images formed in the air, glimpses of ancient beings walking among the stars, shaping worlds, seeding life across the galaxy. "My God," she whispered, "we're looking at their memories." But as the images flowed, Morrison noticed something else. Gaps in the sequence, missing pieces that seemed deliberate. The AI was testing them, watching how they processed each new revelation before revealing more. "The knowledge must be earned," the voice confirmed, reading her thoughts. "Each truth unlocked opens the path to greater understanding. But be warned, you are not the only ones watching your progress." The temperature in the chamber dropped suddenly. The flowing symbols turned red, forming images of something dark moving between the stars, something that hunted civilizations. "What was that?" James asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The reason for your creation," the voice replied. "The threat that the builders could not defeat alone. But first, you must prove yourselves ready for the full truth. Decode our language, understanding its depths, and you will find more than just knowledge. You will discover your true purpose." As if to emphasize the point, new symbols appeared on every surface of the chamber, each one more complex than the last. Morrison realized they were looking at the greatest puzzle ever created, a test written in the language of gods, designed to ensure humanity was ready for whatever truth lay at its end. "Well," she said, a small smile playing at her lips as she faced the assembled scientists, I guess we better get to work. The holographic star map filled the chamber, casting a ghostly blue light across Dr. Alexandra Morrison's face as she studied the ancient trade routes of the architects. 2 weeks had passed since their initial contact with the AI, and each new revelation left her more unsettled than the last. They called themselves the Builders of Dawn. She narrated into her recording device, an ancient species that seeded life across thousands of worlds. But Earth was different. She reached out to touch a glowing point in the star map, and the image zoomed in to show their solar system. Earth wasn't just another experiment. It was their masterpiece. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber, adding to her recording. The project required resources from 300 star systems. No other seeded world received such investment. James Walker entered the chamber, his face pale with excitement. Alex, the carbon dating results came back from the other sites. You're not going to believe this. She already knew what he was going to say. They're all the same age, aren't they? Down to the day, he confirmed. Every single structure we found with these markings, the pyramids, Göbekli Tepe, the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan, they were all built simultaneously, exactly 12,358 years ago. Morrison turned back to the AI interface. Why did you leave? If Earth was so important, why abandon it? The holographic display shifted, showing a massive stellar event. A wave of energy that had swept through this sector of the galaxy. But something about the image seemed off, like pieces were missing from the sequence. Circumstances required immediate evacuation. The AI replied, its tone carrying what almost sounded like regret. The project was forced into premature hibernation. You're not telling us everything, Morrison challenged, her scientific instincts firing. These gaps in your historical records, they're too perfect, too precisely placed. You're editing what we see. The chamber temperature dropped several degrees as the AI responded. Information must be dispensed according to species development parameters. Premature exposure to certain truths has resulted in the collapse of 67% of previous seeded civilizations. Morrison's hand clenched into a fist. We're not your lab rats. Humanity has faced terrible truths before. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars. You have survived because you were designed to survive. The AI interrupted. Every hardship your species has endured was a calibrated test. Every major leap in your development, the discovery of fire, the agricultural revolution, the industrial age, all were predetermined steps in your evolution. The star map shifted again, this time showing Earth's timeline. Key points in human history lit up like beacons, each one corresponding to a sudden leap in technology or understanding. But something went wrong, didn't it? Morrison asked, seeing patterns in the data. The Industrial Revolution. It came too early. We weren't supposed to develop technology this quickly. For the first time, the AI hesitated before responding. Your species has demonstrated unexpected traits. Your rate of adaptation exceeds all projected models. It is both promising and concerning. James stepped forward, his eyes fixed on a dark region of space in the holographic display. What's out there? What were we really created to face? The chamber walls suddenly filled with warning symbols, and the AI's voice took on a more urgent tone. Detection protocols indicate your questions are approaching restricted information parameters. Further inquiry into this subject must be delayed until. Morrison slammed her hand down on the interface pedestal. No more games. People are dying out there. The quantum disturbances in Russia, the disappearances in the South Pacific. Whatever you're preparing us for is already here, isn't it? The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, new images began to form. Terrifying glimpses of something ancient and dark moving between the stars, consuming entire civilizations. But before they could focus on the images, they dissolved into static. Very well, The AI said finally, "You have demonstrated the required level of cognitive resolution. Initiating emergency protocol override. Full historical database access. Granted." The chamber erupted with light as countless new symbols appeared, each one containing memories and knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. As the information flooded in, Morrison realized with growing horror that they hadn't been created to save humanity. They had been created to save the universe itself. Dr. Alexandra Morrison's voice echoed through the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. "The activations are spreading. In the last 72 hours, we've recorded energy signatures at 37 ancient sites across 6 continents." The holographic display behind her showed a global map dotted with pulsing points of light. Angkor Wat, Stonehenge, the Nazca Lines, Easter Island, places that had puzzled archaeologists for centuries were now revealing their true nature. Each site contains what we now know to be quantum interface nodes. She continued, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. And each one is responding to human DNA in unique ways. The builders didn't just leave us technology. They left us a complete system for human enhancement. The Chinese representative leaned forward. "Enhancement? What exactly do you mean, Dr. Morrison?" She nodded to her research partner. James Walker stepped forward, rolling up his sleeve. As the assembled leaders watched, he placed his hand on a small device they'd recovered from the pyramid chamber. The air around him began to shimmer, and for a brief moment, his body became translucent, revealing a network of energy patterns flowing through his cells. "Human consciousness," Morrison explained, "can directly manipulate quantum fields. The builders engineered this ability into our species, but it lay dormant for millennia. These sites are activation points, designed to awaken capabilities that even the builders themselves never possessed." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. The Russian representative stood up abruptly. "The quantum anomalies in Siberia. Are you saying humans caused those?" "Unintentionally," Morrison confirmed. "As these sites activate, they're triggering changes in people living near them. We've recorded instances of spontaneous healing, enhanced intelligence, and in some cases," she paused, knowing how it would sound, "the ability to perceive and manipulate reality at the quantum level." The British representative adjusted his glasses. "You're talking about superpowers, Dr. Morrison. Like something out of a comic book." "I'm talking about the next phase of human evolution," she corrected. "One that was engineered into us from the beginning. The builders knew their logic-based technology couldn't counter the threat they faced, so they created us, beings capable of intuitive quantum manipulation, of finding patterns in chaos, of imagining solutions that their rigid minds could never conceive." The room's screens suddenly flickered, and the AI's voice filled the chamber. "Alert. Quantum disturbance detected. Category 5 entity approaching solar system." Morrison's heart raced. "How long?" 72 hours until first contact." The Secretary General rose from his seat. "Dr. Morrison, you've shown us incredible things, but now you need to tell us everything. What are we facing?" She took a deep breath. "The beings that destroyed the builders. They're not just aliens. They're living manifestations of entropy, entities that exist to unravel reality itself. The builders couldn't fight them because they couldn't comprehend them. But humans," she gestured to the data showing human brain activity near the activated sites, "we can see them. We can fight them. Because we understand something the builders never could. Chaos itself." As if to punctuate her words, alarms began blaring. The global map showed new energy signatures, massive distortions in space-time appearing over major cities. "They're early," the AI announced. "Multiple entities detected, beginning emergency activation protocols at all sites." Morrison watched as the map lit up with hundreds of new points of light. Every ancient structure, every megalithic site, Every place where the builders had left their mark was coming online at once, and with them, humanity's hidden potential was awakening. "We don't have time for a gradual awakening anymore," she told the stunned assembly. "Every human on Earth is about to experience an evolutionary leap that should have taken another 1,000 years. Some won't survive the transition. Many won't understand what's happening to them. But those who do," she looked at the growing distortions on the map, "those who do will be humanity's first line of defense against what's coming." The Secretary General's voice was grim. "And how do we prepare for that?" Morrison's eyes met each leader in turn. "We can't. We can only hope that what the builders saw in us, our capacity for adaptation, our ability to face the unknown, was enough. Because ready or not, the real test of their grand experiment begins now." The first entity manifested over Tokyo at midnight. Dr. Alexandra Morrison watched through satellite feeds as reality itself seemed to tear apart, creating a wound in the sky that defied physics. The hole wasn't black. It was the absence of everything, a void that made the human mind recoil in horror. Multiple quantum breaches detected. The AI's voice echoed through the emergency command center. Entity emergence patterns match historical records, beginning countermeasures. But the countermeasures, energy shields derived from ancient builder technology, shattered like glass against the entity's presence. This wasn't just an invasion. It was reality itself being unmade. "The processing centers can't keep up," James shouted over the chaos of the command center. "We've got 10,000 people manifesting abilities every hour, but they're untrained, scared." A screen showed a teenage girl in Seoul accidentally creating a quantum singularity in her panic, while another display revealed a man in Brazil unconsciously warping space around him as he tried to protect his family. "We need to focus the awakenings," Morrison commanded, her hands flying over the control interface. "The builders left us a neural network. Every ancient site is connected. If we can channel the energy through the people who are adapting the fastest." The entity over Tokyo pulsed, and a wave of unlight swept through the city. Where it passed, matter simply ceased to exist, leaking perfect spherical voids in buildings, streets, and unfortunately, people. "Quantum signature analysis complete," the AI announced. "The entities are attempting to alter our universe's physical constants. They are not simply destroying, they are converting reality to match their own." Morrison felt a chill run down her spine as she watched more tears in reality opening over other cities. How did the builders fight them? "They did not," the AI replied. "Their attempts at direct confrontation resulted in the loss of 73 star systems. That is why they created you." A new alert flashed across the screens. More entities emerging over London, Cairo, New York. But something was different. Where the first attacks had been met with panic and devastation, now there were signs of resistance. In London, a group of university students, their bodies glowing with quantum energy, had formed a pattern that somehow stabilized reality around them. In Cairo, a street vendor stood before the void, his mind somehow grasping patterns that even the AI couldn't comprehend, weaving space back together with pure thought. "This is it," Morrison breathed, understanding finally dawning. "This is why the builders made us so chaotic, so individual. We're not supposed to fight these things with technology or logic." She rushed to the central interface, her fingers dancing across the controls. "We need to stop trying to coordinate the awakenings. The power isn't in the control, it's in the chaos." James looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Alex, if we don't control it, the power could tear people apart." "No," she said, her eyes alight with understanding. "The builders didn't create us to control this power. They created us to embrace it, to ride it like a wave. Every human mind is different, every perspective unique. That's not our weakness, it's our strength." She slammed her hand down on the emergency override, and the AI's voice filled every active ancient site worldwide. Warning: safety protocols disengage. Full awakening sequence initiated. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Across the globe, millions of people began to change at once. Some transformed into being of pure energy, others developed the ability to fold space, and still others found they could perceive and manipulate the quantum foam of reality itself. The entities responded, their void forms pulsing with what almost seemed like surprise. For the first time in their ancient existence, they were facing something they couldn't simply unmake, a species that could look into their young light and see patterns, a race that could touch chaos and shape it into new forms of order. Morrison watched as the battle was joined across the globe, humanity's chaotic, beautiful diversity expressing itself in countless ways of fighting back. "We were never meant to be perfect," she whispered. "We were meant to be perfectly human." The void entities began to retreat from London, from Cairo, from Tokyo, not from fear, but from something they had never encountered before: uncertainty. For the first time in their eternal existence, they couldn't predict what their prey would do next. The Great Pyramid had become a beacon in the storm of reality. Dr. Alexandra Morrison stood at its peak, her body radiating with quantum energy as she coordinated the global defense network. Around her, the sky was a kaleidoscope of battle, void entities clashing with newly awakened humans who wielded powers that defied classification. "Neural network status?" she asked, her voice carrying through the quantum link that now connected all active sites. 70% of awakened individuals have achieved stable control, James reported from the command center below. The rest are getting creative. On the holographic display before her, she watched as a young artist in Barcelona turned her city's defense into a living masterpiece, weaving light and energy into patterns that confused and redirected the void entities. In Moscow, a chess grandmaster had somehow transformed the entire city into a four-dimensional game board, trapping three entities in an endless loop of strategic possibility. The builders never imagined this. The AI's voice carried notes of what sounded almost like wonder. "Your species has surpassed all projected evolution parameters." Morrison watched as a group of children in Kenya, their dreams somehow made real, created a garden of living light that actually forced a void entity to retreat. "We're not just fighting them," she realized. "We're changing them." The AI's next words confirmed her suspicion. Entity behavior patterns show significant deviation from historical records. They are learning, adapting. This has never occurred before. A new alert flashed across her vision. A massive void breach opening over the Atlantic Ocean. But this one was different. The entity that emerged was larger than any they'd seen, its form suggesting something ancient and terrible. "What is that?" James asked through the link. "A first one," the AI responded, its tone grave. "The oldest of their kind. The entity that led the attack that forced the builders to flee this sector." Morrison felt its attention turn toward her, a vast intelligence that had existed since the early universe, focusing its unfathomable awareness on Earth. Instead of fear, she felt something unexpected: recognition. "It's trying to communicate," she broadcast to all active sites. "Everyone, brace for." The entity's attempt at communication hit like a tidal wave of unlight, sending every awakened human to their knees. But in that moment of contact, something remarkable happened. The chaotic, individual nature of human consciousness created millions of different interpretations of the signal, each mind processing it in its own unique way. And in those countless interpretations, patterns emerge. "We can see you," Morrison projected back, her mind connected to millions of others through the neural network. "Not just your form. We see what you are, what you were, what you could be." The first one's response was a pulse of void energy that should have unmade reality for 1,000 miles in every direction. Instead, it met a wall of human consciousness, each mind contributing its own understanding, its own vision of how reality could and should work. The builders tried to fight your chaos with perfect order, Morrison continued, understanding flowing through her. But we're different. We're both order and chaos, logic and dreams, science and art. We are what happens when you plant a garden and let it grow wild. Around the world, awakened humans began to move in concert, not through central control, but through 1,000,000 individual decisions, somehow creating a perfect whole. The ancient sites, the builders' network, all of it hummed with power as humanity expressed itself in one united, yet infinitely diverse voice. The first one's form shifted, its void nature rippling with what might have been uncertainty. For the first time in its ancient existence, it faced something that was neither order nor chaos, but both and neither. You've consumed so many worlds, Morrison projected, her consciousness expanded by millions of connected minds. But we're not like them. We won't fight you. We won't run from you. She paused, feeling the combined power of humanity's awakened potential flowing through her. We're going to change you, just as the builders changed us. The first one's response would reshape the universe forever, but not through destruction, through something entirely new, evolution. The ancient pyramid chamber had changed. Where once stone walls contained the builder's interface, now reality itself flowed like liquid light. Dr. Alexandra Morrison stood at its center, her consciousness extended through the global network of awakened minds, as the truth of the Egyptian pantheon finally revealed itself. Each god was a template. She spoke, her voice resonating through both physical and quantum space. Aspects of human potential, waiting to be unlocked. Around her, the chamber projected images of the ancient Egyptian deities, but now she could see their true nature. Thoth wasn't just the god of knowledge. He represented humanity's capacity to perceive and manipulate the quantum nature of information itself. Horus wasn't simply the sky god. He was the blueprint for human consciousness to extend beyond physical form. The builders didn't create gods, James observed through their shared connection. They created evolution paths. The first one's vast consciousness pressed against the barriers of their reality, its voice a symphony of unlight that now, finally, they could understand. You are neither order nor chaos. You are change itself. Morrison watched through countless awakened eyes as humanity demonstrated the truth of those words. In China, a young woman channeled the aspect of Sekhmet, her consciousness becoming a quantum flame that could burn away the very concept of entropy. In Brazil, a teacher embodied Mayat's principle of balance, creating a space where void and matter could coexist in harmony. The final template is activating, the AI announced, its voice carrying both warning and wonder. Osiris protocol initiating. The chamber erupted with light as ancient knowledge flooded through the network. Osiris, the god of death and rebirth, wasn't just a myth. He was the ultimate expression of humanity's purpose, the power to take what was ending and transform it into something new. They're not retreating, Morrison realized, watching the void entity's movements through the global network. They're being drawn to us, to what we're becoming. The first one's response confirmed her understanding. For eons we have ended worlds. Order falls to entropy. Pattern returns to chaos. But you, its vast consciousness, rippled with something like recognition. You make endings into beginnings. Across the planet, the templates were expressing themselves through humanity's infinite variety. Each person who connected to an aspect did so in their own unique way, creating a tapestry of power that had never existed before in the universe. This was their plan all along, Morrison broadcast to the network as understanding dawned. The builders didn't create us to fight the void. They created us to complete the cycle. Order, chaos, and now, transformation. The first one's form began to change, its void nature responding to the new pattern humanity was writing into reality. Other entities followed, their ancient existence finding a new purpose in the face of something they had never encountered before, the possibility of evolution. Warning, the AI's voice carried urgency, quantum field saturation approaching critical levels. Human consciousness was not designed to channel this much power. But Morrison smiled because she could see what the AI couldn't. No, we were designed to surpass our design. That's what makes us human. Through the network, she felt every awakened mind working in concert, not through control or compliance, but through the beautiful chaos of individual choice, creating a greater harmony. The Egyptian templates were just the beginning, a framework to help them understand their own infinite potential. The first one's voice resonated through their shared consciousness. We sought to end creation's pattern. You show us it has no end, only change. As the entity's words faded, the chamber's light shifted, revealing new symbols that neither the builders nor their ancient adversaries had ever seen before. They were the language of something new being born, the first words of a reality where order and chaos danced together in endless creation. Morrison reached out to touch the symbols, and as she did, she felt the future unfold, not just for humanity, but for all existence. We're not just changing them, she whispered. We're changing everything. The universe held its breath as humanity prepared to take its first step into a new age, not as inheritors of the builder's legacy, but as authors of their own destiny. The Great Pyramid no longer stood as a monument of stone. It had become a nexus of pure creation, where the combined consciousness of humanity wove new patterns into the fabric of reality. Dr. Alexandra Morrison floated at its heart, her form shifting between physical and energy, as she conducted the final movement of the Builder's Grand Symphony. All ancient sites are at full resonance, James reported through the network, his consciousness dancing between 1,000 points of light. The void entities are responding to the pattern. Around the Earth, reality itself was being rewritten. The first one, that ancient being of pure entropy, had become the catalyst for something unprecedented. Where its void nature touched the human network, new forms of existence blossomed. Neither order nor chaos, but a harmonious dance between the two. The builders created us. Morrison broadcast the global consciousness, but they could never have imagined this. We're not just their successors, we're something entirely new. Through the network, she felt every human mind contributing to the transformation. A child in Tokyo dreams of colors that never existed, and suddenly they do. A poet in Paris thinks of words that could capture infinity, and new dimensions of language unfold, every individual adding their unique note to the universal symphony. The AI's voice, now more wonder than machine, echoed through the chamber. Original programming parameters exceeded, new patterns emerging. This is beyond the builder's highest aspirations. Morrison watched as the first one's ancient form began to change, its entropy nature not destroyed but transformed. Through human consciousness, it found what it had unconsciously sought for eons, not the end of pattern, but the evolution of it. We do not end, the first one communicated, its thoughts now clear in their shared understanding. We become. Across the globe, other void entities follow their ancient leader's example, but each transformation was unique, guided by the individual humans they connected with. In India, an entity merged with a mathematician's understanding of infinity, becoming a bridge between existence and possibility. In Egypt, another found new purpose through an artist's vision, learning to create rather than consume. The network is stable, James reported with awe. We're not just changing them. We're creating a new kind of reality together. Morrison felt the truth of his words. The builders had created humanity to be their weapons, their tools against the void. But in their quest for perfect order, they had accidentally created something far more powerful, beings who could see beauty in both creation and destruction, who could take the raw materials of chaos and order and forge them into something new. The first one's consciousness merged with the network one final time. For eternities, we sought to return all to the void. You show us that the void itself can birth new stars. As the ancient entity spoke, the very nature of space-time around Earth began to change. The quantum field became a canvas for human dreams, where physics and imagination danced together in endless creation. The void entities, once harbingers of universal death, now worked with human consciousness to explore the infinite possibilities of existence. The builders left us a garden, Morrison broadcasted to all. But we've grown beyond their design. We're not just caretakers or weapons. We're artists, dreamers, creators. The AI added its own observation. Human potential has exceeded all known parameters. You have become what the builders could only dream of being. A species that can reshape reality while preserving its infinite wonder. As the last transformations completed, Morrison felt the future opening before them. Humanity would spread to the stars not as conquerors or simple explorers, but as artists of reality itself. Each world they touched would become a new canvas. Each void entity, they met a new partner in creation. The universe is not ending, she whispered, feeling the truth of it in every atom of her transformed being. It's finally learning how to dream. Around the Earth, the once deadly void had become a spectrum of infinite possibility, where human imagination and ancient power worked together to paint new constellations across the canvas of space-time. The builder's dream had been surpassed, their greatest creation having found not just purpose, but transcendence. Humanity had become what neither builder nor void could be alone. The artists of reality, the dreamers of new universes, the children of both order and chaos, who could dance between worlds and make the cosmos sing.